Hey everybody, my name's Jim. Tonight I'm going to be talking about globalizing JS apps, basically internationalization. I'm going to go over some terms to start, and by the end I hope to show off an app that I wrote, primarily targeted at developers who are looking to internationalize their applications. I'm going to be focusing on a particular syntax, so the app revolves around that syntax and kind of playing with it in a live editor. And yeah, so we'll get down to that. Just a quick show of hands. How many of you have done any sort of like string translation, back end, front end, even like pluralizing kind of counts? All right, cool. Roughly half. So, much time? Probably go through the slides a little on the quick side, but as I said, I just want to get some terms out of the way. So the first is what is internationalization, or I-18N as it's often abbreviated. Basically, we're talking about writing your applications to be able to support or recognize the fact that you're supporting people from different languages and different cultural backgrounds. So what's localization? Localization typically means how you go about actually doing that. So the internationalization stuff is kind of the big bubble, and your localization is more of the specifics on how you go about achieving that end. And again, that's often abbreviated as L10N. It's just the ends of the word, and then the number of characters in the middle. And then globalization, which I titled the talk after. I really struggle with the name of the talk because it's kind of boring, but globalization is just combining those two ideas. So going back to that hierarchy, globalization is kind of at the top, just encompassing everything. This brings us to locale. So locale is actually broken down into two things. You've got your language and your region. Taking EN-US as an example, since that would be like our locale here. The EN portion represents the language, and US is the region. So like for people in Great Britain, for example, it would be ENGB, and there's the language we speak is for the most part the same, but the region makes a big difference as far as, they use metric system over there, so like, different substitutions as far as representing the thousandths place, numbers, money symbols, for example. So even though the language might be the same, region also plays a big role. So I mentioned at the beginning that I was going to talk about a particular syntax. That syntax is the ICU syntax. ICU stands for International Components for Unicode, and I believe it started in Java. I'm not quite sure, but it's a collection of libraries that has since been ported to a lot of different languages. Has anybody used like gettext? That's kind of the big one, and that is very predominant in the Django community, but it has a lot of shortcomings, particularly with pluralization. Believe it or not, some locales have up to 6 different forms of pluralizing a word, and gettext just it can't handle stuff like that. So this is kind of why ICU came about, and it's big and mobile. It's becoming kind of the predominant internationalization standard, so it's good to know. And it defines, the most important part is that it defines a syntax on how to represent strings in a language agnostic way. So the same string can be like localized to any sort of locale. So that's the idea. So let's look at some examples real quick. The first and obviously the easiest is string literals. There's nothing to do, it's just the string. So this would be an example, it's just hello world. For interpolation, everything revolves around these little curly braces. So where you could normally just do like, a dot replace, a literal string replace, your string interpolation ends up being the same. I should say that all of this expects kind of like a context object. So if you're working in JavaScript, you'd pass it a little object in addition to your string. and that object would have name, like key name equals Jim. Number formatting. So in addition to your variable placeholder, there's different formats that you can tack onto the end. So this is a look at numbers. Here I'm quantifying that I want to represent numcats as a number. And then there's another additional format on top of that. I don't remember what the different options are, but after that, in the case of number, you can say %, and then it knows to like represent that as a %. And that actually expects a value between 0 and 1, so like 0.55 for 55%. And again, we'll look at some more concrete stuff at the end. Date formatting. The second guy there gets replaced with date, and then your built-in options are short, medium, long, and full. You can actually define your own formats as well, which we'll get to, and also show what this string would end up looking like if you were to fill it in. Time is the exact same, except you just substitute date for time. And now there's a few more advanced ones. So select. With select, you get to like choose different, there's different cases. And so this example is a particularly non-exhaustive one, because I just have yes and no. But you could imagine, any number of cases here. And other is kind of like your placeholder. That's like the else and an if else. So you have any number of your cases, and then other would be applied to anything else. And it's good to note here too that all of this stuff supports nesting, which makes it really powerful. So in addition to having this kind of outer string going on, I've got this interval that's doing a percent. Plural, I touched on the plural forms. So this is very similar to the select, where you kind of spell out your cases. If you were doing a more like US, like English-based locale, you probably are sufficient with just doing 0, 1, and other. But the different cases, so there's 0, 1, 2, few, many, other. And those last, or with the exception of other, those last three really are dependent on particular locales. So again, depending on what you need to support, you might never have to specify those cases. But this is how you would do plural forms. And it reads like similar to a case statement. If item count is 0, return no items. Numbers is a special placeholder that, since it's 1, this will always be 1. So I had the option there of just saying like 1 again, but this will give me a numeric 1 there. And then other, again, will give whatever the number is. And then this is the last one, select ordinal, so like first, second, third, etc. And this looks a lot like the previous example, but you're just kind of specifying how to do like the ordinal representation. So that's it. I flew through that really quick, but I want to demo an app to make it a little more concrete. We can play with some examples. So got this little helper just to get some paste going on. Go. Sorry. All right. So is it big enough? Contrast is really low. Can you guys see that? Mm-hmm. So I'll just explain the app real quick. Let me fill in some stuff so you can see. As I said, it's like a little live editor that you can play with these intel strings in. There's some buttons along the top here to kind of quickly fill out those little structures, little placeholders, so you don't have to remember how to do that each time. And on the bottom here, it will fill out whatever you've kind of collected together to do the rendering. There's a context tab so that you can specify what your variables are. And I mentioned that you can do custom formats. You can just paste in some JSON over here if you need to define any of those. And then lastly, you can kind of hot swap the locale. I just have these 6 here. It's kind of random, but the idea is more to just like get a feel for it rather than try and support a whole bunch of stuff. So that's the app. It parses out the variables that you've got. So just to like play around with this a little bit, I can go through the examples I have. So again, hello world just gets spit right out. With hello name, I have to provide a name. Jim. You can see that kind of just gets filled right out, but in a locale agnostic way. Right now, this doesn't change anything because of the fact that I'm not doing any sort of string translation right now. All I'm doing is like locale-based stuff. But if I had the ability, or like, if I had like translations prepared, if I had like, static strings, I could conceivably swap those out as well. So let's look at the more interesting ones. So number. So here you can see we're still in US. 0 and 0%, those look pretty familiar. Million cats and 63% are black. So this will give you a better idea. So now, like, is that everybody big enough for people in the back? You can see, like, we've got commas in the separator position. There's a % sign here, but as I flip through my locales, that's bound to change. I should have looked up what these locales are. I don't know them, but I'm guessing this is Czech. I don't know. The commas became spaces there. Now they're dots. So pretty cool. And I can keep running through these, but I suspect you get the idea. Let's look at the different dates. So this is an interesting thing. You'll notice that I'm now getting, was this Japanese? Yeah, Japanese characters there. This was a surprise to me. I didn't realize that it would do that. I thought that it would not. But I guess, it does make sense. So that's pretty cool. Just to look at the different formats. So there's short, medium, which we looked at, long, and then full. And if you've got like, a date and time, you would basically just combine them. So date and time, and again, this can be short, medium, is that the same? I don't remember. Long, and then full. So that was time. I'm going to skip time. So select. Again, this is like, I could come up with more cases, but just to keep it simple for now. So no taxes apply. Whoops, didn't do that. So if I say yes, tax rate. You get the idea. And since I said yes, it kind of fills in this. If I had said anything else, it would say no taxes apply, which is what it said before. Yeah, kind of just keep going with that. So we have some items. And what was the last one? The select ordinal. So that's pretty much it. Did you guys want to see those last 2 cases? It's all kind of the same. Are there any questions? Yeah.
What's the library that you recommend?
Yeah. So that was my last slide. I probably should have had that first. That's a good question. So format.js, I think, is really slick. So there's a core library that it comes with, and they also have a number of direct integrations. A number 4: React, Ember, Handlebars, and Dust. I started actually. So we here at AWeber. I work at AWeber. I don't remember if I ever said that. We had been like very big into Backbone, and so we were doing a lot of handlebars, and that's where I started using Format.js. And they've got a really nice handlebars helper, handlebars helpers for working with this. We've since moved to React, and we have applications that are doing both at the same time. So it started as a Backbone app, and then we started integrating React. And so I've found the need, or the desire, I should say, to settle on the core library and have both use it rather than have the multiple integrations going on. And since that point, I've actually grown to really like just the core library and write some simple wrappers over it. I don't have a particular recommend. I mean, if you're like deep into React or like any of those four, the integrations are pretty nice. They're very nice, actually. The whole library is very nice. But yeah, it runs in the browser and Node. And the really cool thing about Format is that they build on top of all the standards. So not only is it like this syntax that's a standard, but they build it on top of the JavaScript standards. This might be on their homepage. Yeah, so I believe, I don't actually know if it's part of the ECMAScript standards or if it's part of HTML. I guess it would be ECMAScript. I don't know where it started, but there are actual browser specifications for how like date and like how all this stuff is supposed to work, and browser APIs for them. Unfortunately, the browsers don't all support, like the actual browser support isn't like across the board. So Format.js has their, so this library is written by Yahoo, and they have a whole bunch of like supportive libraries underneath Format that Format like uses and bundles together, so you don't know the nitty details. But they smooth all that out for you. So you're using the standards that are defined as per the spec. It's possible that the browser that you're using doesn't actually support them, but you're not going to know that. So I find that very attractive. There's definitely alternatives, but this is the one that I've grown to really like, and this is what Intel Live is using. Yeah, so that's the long and short of it. Pretty sure that was the last slide.
Is it changing the time zone as well when you change the full view? I thought it did.
The actual time zone or the way it's displayed?
The way it's displayed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, if that's like a cultural expectation, it should. Let's see. Examples, time. Oops. Yeah, I forget which one that was. That might have been full.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. I missed that part. So some of them, that's really cool. Huh.
I was wondering how they were figuring that out, because like clearly US has more than one time zone.
Right.
They must just default to one of those.
Yeah.
Possibly.
I think
Yeah.
the cool part is that it's like just doing the conversion to UTC and GMT like that. That's pretty cool. Oh, going back to HTML, whoops. The HTML5, this is using the HTML5 date picker. 11, oops. Oh my god. I think I screwed it up. Oh, that was the time, I forgot. I actually didn't know this was a thing. It's input type equals date and input type equals time, which I didn't realize were things. Should the date one. This is the date one. 11, 12. There's also input type equals date time, which gives you both. But this is why it only works in Chrome. I think Chrome's the only thing that supports that. Any other questions? And this is, oh, here's another tip that I learned. Has anybody used Git, raw Git? It's just a site, raw Git. So so that runs purely in the browser until live. There's no server aspect to it. So if you've got something like that, that's just like an HTML file, you can link to it with raw Git, and it essentially like provides whatever CDN or whatever. So you can just go to it. So that's actually what's serving this. I could have used Git pages or whatever, and I probably should, but this is just using raw Git. So you can see like, this is just the path directly in Git. I've got a dist directory and an index, and it's just serving that, which is pretty cool. I think I was going to say something else, but I forget. So that's all I've got. Cool.